I'm Sarah Burns with the Salt Lake Local Real Estate Group, and today I want to talk to you about investment and utilizing our intuition to know when it is the proper time to make that investment in real estate. Um, one of my favorite quotes is by Albert Einstein, and he said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." Okay, I love this quote because intuition has played a key role in my life in many, many decisions I've made that I think a lot of people I know would have come at these same decisions from a more logical perspective. Okay. And I'm a big believer in logic. Okay. But I also believe that intuition is equal to that of our logic. And that the only reason that we can't experience that we can't see that, is because most of us have been conditioned not to trust our intuition in the first place. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the decision that I've had to make regarding Savannah, Georgia, and the investment that I wanted to purchase there. I'm in love with Savannah, Georgia. If you know me well, you probably know that I want to retire there. So because of that, I have been looking at purchasing an investment property there, because if I purchase it later, of course, it's going to cost me more. So it only makes sense to do something now or in the very near future. But this is a decision I've really, really struggled with as far as the methodology in doing this, right? Because I'm a person that likes to be debt free. I'm a person that really leans hard into autonomy and freedom. And that means living a debt-free existence to me. Okay, so for most of us, if we're looking at purchasing an investment, some of us are going to utilize debt to some degree in order to do that. And that is something that I've had discomfort with. Okay, so I've gone back and forth between, okay, do I purchase my permanent retirement home right now, the home that I'll want to live in when I move to Savannah, which is a more expensive purchase, or do I purchase maybe a smaller property that I renovate as an Airbnb? Okay, and I've gone back and forth with a lot of different thoughts surrounding this, but those are some of them. And I was having a lot of discomfort surrounding this purchase. Okay, and then what happened is one night I went to sleep and I had a dream. Okay, and when we speak about intuition, in my experience, one of the ways our intuition can reveal itself is through dreaming. That's the way that my intuition reveals itself. But for other people, it might be through music, or their intuition might arise for them when they're practicing yoga, or they're running, or they're hiking, or they're writing. Okay, there's a lot of ways that intuition enters us. Okay, but for me, the core way that it has always entered is through the symbolism of dreaming. So I want to tell you about two dreams that I had that helped me with the decision surrounding Savannah, Georgia. One of the dreams, the first dream, I was with my father and I was on a lake. Okay, and water tends to symbolize consciousness, depth. Okay, so I'm on a lake with my father and we're fishing, and we catch about 6 fish, and I'm really, really sad that we've caught these fish and I want to release them. But I feel like I'm going to disappoint my father if I ask him to release the fish. So we go home and they're given to my mother. They're given to my mother to cook. And as the fish are waiting in this bucket of water, the fish talk to me and they say, "We want to be released. We don't want to be cooked." And I'm really conflicted because, and I'm feeling like a lot of pain because I feel connected to these fish and I want them to live. I want them to be set free, but I also don't want to disappoint my father. Okay. So next thing I know, my mother's heating up a skillet and she throws the fish onto the skillet. And the minute that they do, I have a little come apart. Okay. And my mother sees that I'm having this emotional breakdown and ask me what's wrong. And I tell her, I don't want the fish to die. I want to release the fish. And she immediately removes the fish from the skillet. They're okay. They're a little bit, hot, but they're removed quickly enough to where they're okay. And they're thrown back into the cold water. Okay. And then what happens is my mother goes with me to the lake and we release the fish. Okay. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, how is this tied to real estate? Okay. We all have odd dreams, and they mean specific things for specific people based upon our experience. But this dream for me what it was symbolizing is the two sides of abundance that I've experienced in my life. Okay, my father represents the side of abundance of produce, gain materially. Okay, and these are really important principles, and this is something I'm glad that my father taught me. My father made me any success that I've had in my business, I attribute to my father, to him teaching me discipline and perseverance, and to just stay with it and just keep going and be creative, right? This is all my father. Okay, now my mother, on the other hand, the teaching of abundance that she offered me was sometimes enough is a feast. We actually don't have to consume everything that's put in front of us. And by not overly consuming, we don't make ourselves sick. We don't burden ourselves. Okay, so I woke up and I immediately knew that this dream was very tied to Savannah, and that my intuition and I want to say perhaps my deeper self was instructing me, be very mindful of how deep you get into the purchase in Savannah, the investment in Savannah. Okay, so a couple nights later, I had another dream, because sometimes when our intuition speaks to us, we want to disregard it for our logic. Okay. And being a realtor, I say to myself, yeah, but it doesn't make sense to purchase anything but this big investment in Savannah right now. Right. That's what I tell myself. And we won't go into all the reasons why logically that can come up for a lot of us in this market. Okay, that's, like I said, another podcast, but that is what happened. Is even after I had this dream, I kept doubting myself. I kept feeling like maybe I needed to burden myself with an investment that was grander than what I was comfortable making. Okay, so a couple nights later, I have another dream, and I am with two dear friends that both invest in the real estate market pretty heavily. Two people who have a lot of grit, a lot of wherewithal, a lot of business savvy. And I'm fortunate to be friends with them. And we were on this river, and this river had 4 different tiers in it. Okay, so it dropped in levels, and each level, the water was more rapid than the level below it. Okay, so I was with my two friends, and we walked up to the 4th level, and my friend Todd said to me, I think I'm going to swim in there. And I said, oh boy, Todd, that looks really, really rapid. Are you sure you can hack that? And he just kind of smiled and he said, I'm good. I've got this. And off he went. Okay. And then my girlfriend that I was with, she was looking at the different tiers, and she said, I think I'm going to go down to tier 3. I feel a little bit more comfortable there, and I said, well, the water's pretty strong there too. Are you sure you can handle that? And we sat there and we talked about the different tiers for a minute, and which tier we wanted to swim in. And I told her that I wanted to swim in the 2nd tier of water, right? Which was nothing like a stream. Like the bottom tier was a stream, and then the tier above that was like a river, and the tier above that was rapids, and the tier above that, well, I don't know what to call it. It was really intense. Okay. But I told her that I wanted to swim in the river, that I felt that I could handle the strength of that current, and that I felt that current was the best current to get me home to my son quickly. And she said, yeah, I've got to get home to my husband pretty quickly too. He's waiting for me. And I actually think this 3rd tier is going to take me to him more quickly. And I said, yeah, I wish I could take that tier with you. And I said, I'm just afraid I drowned in it, trying to get home to my son faster. Right. So she got in the 3rd tier of water, and I got in the 2nd, and we all swam to where we needed to be. Okay. But in this dream, one of the things that really stuck out to me, it wasn't just the tears of water, it was the relationships that we were seeking to get back to. Okay. And when I woke up, I immediately knew that this was a dream that again was tied to my desire to purchase a property in Savannah, Georgia. And it was instructing me on, yes, go ahead, get in the water, put yourself in here, do this, but be mindful of the tier that you get into, the level of risk that you take, because ultimately everything you do, all the investments that you've made, it's not just about financial abundance, it's that you're trying to free your time up for your relationships, right? Which is why I said to my friend, I think this tier of water will get me back to my son the most quickly. And that's been core for me. Everything that I've done has been about my relationships. How can I be in service to those who I love through proper investments? And I'm a believer that if we burden ourselves too heavily with debt, we won't be in the service of our relationships, because what the people who love us the most want, they want our time. And if we become too encumbered by debt, we spend incredible hours working to pay off that debt and away from them. Okay, so that's why the second tier within the river was most suited to me, but there was something suited differently to my girlfriend and to my friend Todd, based upon the level of risk that they could take and based upon how they were trying to operate within the relationships that were important to them. When it comes to investments, many of us are fixated on producing grand wealth, okay? And there's nothing wrong with this. If we're fixated on producing grand wealth, then it may be because we have people in our lives, maybe we have children or we have parents, and we want to make sure that we provide them the best education and we want them to be debt-free, okay? And so wealth is very important to us for various different reasons, but ultimately, if you're creating wealth to serve the people you love, that's a good thing. On the other hand, there's a different group of people, right, who are also in the service of their relationships. And they do that by taking on less debt. They might still invest, but their level for risk is less because it's very important to them to preserve their time. I'm that kind of person. These dreams really, really helped me define what was best for me. You probably, if you're watching this podcast, you probably have watched a lot of podcasts on investment, and you've been taught all kinds of strategies and all kinds of things surrounding logic to guide you. And those things are good. And we need to understand the strategies and the methodologies of investing. But I want to encourage you to consider that there is something more. There's something more to add to that, and that is your intuition. And all our intuition is instructing us regarding it. It's not so much a matter of that it's trying to tell us if you do this, it's going to produce this result, or if you do that, it's going to produce that result. Okay. It is more so that our intuition will instruct us with how much we can really bear in terms of risk versus what we've been conditioned to bear, which is often more than some of us can carry. Okay, so I hope that this podcast has been helpful, though perhaps a little bit unorthodox. If you have any questions surrounding real estate and investment, please always feel free to call me or my business partner, Ashley Seipert. Thanks so much for joining today.